Welcome to another episode of Latitude Design. On today's video, we're going to be going over NFTs and the Metaverse and whether they're a scam, hype, useless, and whether this bubble is going to burst soon. And more importantly, the misconceptions about NFTs in the Metaverse and how this relates to architecture. Because after all, we are an interior design and renovation company, and we wouldn't be talking about this if it didn't relate to our niche. So without further ado, I'm gonna hop on right into my computer right now, and we're gonna go over all the misconceptions and show you what this is about. So first of all, here's some of the popular misconceptions that we have. I'm gonna go over the short answers now, and then we'll expand on each point later on in this video. So a lot of people think that NFTs are a cryptocurrency or a blockchain. Some people don't even know the difference between these two. And it gets mistaken because it's, first of all, the answer is no, it's neither of these, okay? But it is built on the blockchain, and we'll go more into that in detail. Second is that it's complicated. Short answer is again no. And three is that they have no utility and are useless, okay? NFTs have huge utility and are very useful piece of technology that can be used across multiple parts in the digitization of our industry, okay? And a lot of people think that right now, especially, that they're cash grabs or get rich quick schemes. And this is, while this may be true to a point, there's a lot of NFTs that are real businesses that offer real value to people. But just like any other business or new emerging industry, there's a lot of confusion. There will be a lot of scams and a lot of cash grabs, just like any other businesses that exist. And number 6 is this a bubble or a hype? Now, right now you see a lot of crazy stuff happening. We might be in a bubble, I don't know. But regardless, this innovation has so much utility to offer that even if a lot of the prices of these projects go to zero, the technology is still the same. So what makes NFTs awesome is still going to exist even when people don't care about it, okay? So let's keep on going here, right? So what's an NFT and why do they cost so much? So you see all these photos of people making money off JPEGs on the internet, and you're wondering, how are they flipping digital pictures for so much money? And what is an NFT? So in short terms, right now NFT stands for non-fungible token. However, this term I think will change as the industry develops. It's not really that important what the term NFT stands for. It's just more of what they are. Essentially are tokens, like digital tokens or assets, if you want to call them, that are used to represent ownership of unique items, okay? In a nutshell, that's what it is. They let you tokenize things like art, collectibles, even real estate. Anything that has like scarcity or you need to show unique ownership of it digitally, that's what NFTs allow you to do. They only have one official owner at a time, and they're secured by the Ethereum blockchain. No one can modify their record of ownership or copy paste a new NFT in existence. Now, NFTs aren't just made on Ethereum, okay? But one thing to realize is that they're built, a big majority of them are built on the Ethereum blockchain. So if you see this picture over here, this infographic, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. Okay, there you go. So these blocks, this is just a visual representation, okay? In the end, NFTs and blockchain are just code, but this is just to help you understand better, is that NFTs are like these blocks, and they're created on the blockchain. So the blockchain is like the links between these NFTs. And every time that let's say you produce an NFT on the blockchain, you get this square, this cube, and then now you want to make another one, the next cube will be built right on next to it, linked on the blockchain. So they're like little blocks chained together, and you can never delete a block, and you can never edit a block. So you just have like this block upon block upon block, and that's what the blockchain is. It's like a transparent ledger that everyone can see the transactions that go through between users and between wallet addresses. So this is Ethereum right here. So Ethereum is like a cryptocurrency that is also its own blockchain. So right now, like Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency in a blockchain. Maybe currency is the wrong word. I think you call it because it's digital property. You can call it crypto assets for easier understanding, because people confuse currencies with, the rising price. Like, why does the price change if it's a currency? So these are different blockchains. Bitcoin is a different blockchain. It's like a network, okay? Like the internet is just a different network. Ethereum, it's another network, and each network have their own utilities. So Bitcoin does its job, which is just to facilitate for transactions, whereas Ethereum is a different type of blockchain that, while it's built off the initial concept of Bitcoin, what Ethereum lets you do is build stuff upon it. You can, like this guy over here, you can think of Ethereum as this open source network, like an open source supercomputer that anyone who knows the developer language that Ethereum operates on can code things into the blockchain. Now, or rather build things on the blockchain, which is the network. You can think of the blockchain as a network. And so this guy is here accessing this open source network and building things upon it, just like how I can go and upload an NFT into the Ethereum blockchain without any issues, okay? So how does it work? Because Ethereum is like this app store, you can think of it as a network where you can just build your own apps and publish them without needing to go through any middleman, okay? And over the past few years, Ethereum has been building all these, or people have been developing apps on Ethereum, and you can see how it's becoming like this app store for the Web 3.0. And now it started off with finance, okay? People started developing Web3 applications for existing financial applications we have today, like PayPal. You got all these central banks, and they started offering banking type services, but in a decentralized way where anyone can have access to them. You don't need to go through brokers. You don't need to, like for example, using eToro and going through their system. Instead, you have something like Uniswap, where you can access the trading environment right through your phone, but except that the only difference is that there is no blockages between you and trading. So you're trading with another person directly, okay? So this is just to give you some back history of where Ethereum started growing and how it's being deployed across multiple avenues in the industry. So, and the reason this happens is because of smart contracts. And this is the biggest difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin, is that Ethereum is, again, like an app store, like a platform. It lets you build things using smart contracts. So essentially, what NFTs are initially smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. And a smart contract is basically like an automated type of contract where you don't need lawyers or brokers or middlemen. Just like here, a traditional contract, if you want to buy a house, will involve Alice having to create a title that has to go through all these brokers, and they act as the middleman between the seller and the buyer. Whereas using Ethereum or smart contracts, okay, you use code as law. So you see these bunch of computers. So Ethereum, again, is the network that's being held up by the people that contribute to the network using their servers, and the way they're compensated for hosting the network is by being paid in Ethereum. And that happens through when smart contracts get initiated, they're paid a certain percentage of that of the Ethereum transactions that go through, because that's their incentive for holding up the network. However, the network is protected by code. So the reason for blockchain is to create trust in a trustless system, or to remove the human error when it comes between trying to make agreements between people. That's why the blockchain is super transparent. That's why it's a ledger. Terrible for criminals, because again, you can see everything happening, and it's protected by code because it's trusting the machine as the middleman. And because the machine just operates on code, people can trust that the code is acting as the middleman between the smart contracts. So I'm going to go more detail how the smart contracts work. So you have a predefined contract, okay, that you can get someone to write up a smart contract for you if you don't know how to create one yourself. And basically the terms in the code, okay, the smart contract is just code on the blockchain, is the terms are established, and then the events trigger only once those terms are met. And then once those events are triggered, that's when you have the execution of the contract, and then the policy is automatically executed. So say, for example, the title of your house or the ownership of your house, you create a smart contract for it, and you're waiting for the buyer to initiate the buy. And it says that they need to pay $100,000 worth of Ethereum. So if $100,000 don't trigger the event, then the contract will not be executed, and the buyer will not get the smart contract or the title of your house into their wallet. So this way you automate the entire process until the pre-agreed upon conditions are met based on the terms that you've set. And then once it's all triggered, the transaction is settled, all details are recorded on the blockchain so everyone can see everything, okay? So that's essentially how smart contracts work. This is how Ethereum works. And Ethereum is not the only smart contract platform. A lot of new smart contract blockchains have been developed. Like, you might even notice some of these. Maybe you've heard of Solana or Cardano or Binance. Basically, they call themselves Ethereum competitors, or they were built to solve problems that Ethereum couldn't, because Ethereum was like the first. And then these guys developed after seeing the problems that Ethereum is going to face in the future. So which one is the best? That's still up for argument. Okay, Ethereum as far right now is the biggest, and it's why it's very famous in the NFT space. NFTs are being built on these other smart contract blockchains. However, Ethereum has this current gravity force that's just sucking in all the attention and all the developers. And because of that, there's enough knowledge and framework in the development in Ethereum that, let's say you're a developer and you run into a problem. There's a lot of developers who build on Ethereum, so you can go on the web and find resources for it. And that's one of the biggest things for developers. So which is why Ethereum is winning right now, is because that it just has that gravity effect. So there's a lot of, support for it. So now that you know that, and that NFTs can be built on any of these blockchains, and now you understand the concept of smart contracts and blockchains, this is where what NFTs come in, right? Because they're smart contracts initially, or you can think of it as programmable. So they're smart contracts where these art pieces are visual representations of the smart contract. So for example, you can have just a piece of art, but the NFT, the smart contract behind it is, for example, let's say it's a piece of artwork made by a famous artist. So you owning that digital asset, the smart contract is the verifiable ownership that it was produced by, Picasso. And this is the original piece by Picasso because it was created, this smart contract was created by the museum that owns this Picasso painting. And now the owner of this new Picasso painting is you, for example. So why do they cost so much? So here I gave you some of the most famous NFTs, and also the ones that get a lot of the, like, why does this Bored Ape, this is called the Bored Ape, okay, ape number 682, it is now has a price of $1.7 million, okay? And you also have this CryptoPunk, this pixelated picture here that's worth $8 million. And you also have this very nice art piece done by artist Beeple. He's a well-known artist, and it's going for $100,000 for this exact digital artwork that he made. And you also have virtual real estate plots of land that are basically people are buying virtual real estate in that sense. Like, it's a game engine that has plots of land, and each plot of land is an NFT. It's like a unique cubic meter in the digital engine that now people are buying, and they can have verifiable ownership because it's an NFT that they own this amount of land in this specific metaverse. So all this ties together. So why do they cost so much? For example, well, there's a lot of reasons. Okay, first of all, there's just supply and demand. There's a limited supply of these apes. People want the apes, price goes up, right? Why do they want these apes so much? Well, first of all, it started off as it's mostly to be part of a community, right? If there's only 10,000 apes, and the people who created these apes created a roadmap of promises that they're going to deliver to holders of these apes or these tokens. So basically, if you have a Bored Ape, you will be entitled to access exclusive perks that our Bored Ape community is going to release. And as a result of that, I'm not too familiar with the roadmap of Bored Apes. I just know that there's going to be a merchandise, there's going to be a metaverse. I don't have a Bored Ape. I'm not too, I don't know what's going on there. But what I do know is that because of the promise of utility and access that's going to come from being a Bored Ape holder, and also the community itself who has a Bored Ape, a lot of celebrities started buying Bored Apes. So now you trying to get a Bored Ape, you buy one, you're now part of a community that people like Snoop Dogg or Eminem are now part of. So you're joining, and there's only 10,000 people, and there's a lot of celebrities getting in. So now you're trying to get a Bored Ape. You're like, wow, I'm being in this pool of people that I can communicate with, and a club. Basically, it's like a yacht club that they've just created. So the price, well, people want it. There's a limited supply, and people are buying into the narrative of what the developers will release. That's why it goes up to that many dollars. Same thing with CryptoPunks. Now, the art itself, I can't comment about it because, I mean, look, art is subjective. And again, it's less about, the reason, at least I'm assuming, that these prices are reaching $8 million is less about the art itself or how long it took. It's more about, again, the access they're granting and the community, who are the holders, and how much you're paying to be part of a specific tribe of people. So CryptoPunks is also one of the original developers that are, or I should say, some of the biggest in the space, and they have a lot of influence in this space. So people want to get into the CryptoPunk club. Whereas for this guy, Beeple, he's just a well-known artist. People love his art. And now, because he makes digital art, and before, you couldn't verify ownership of digital art, right? So now if you buy a Beeple NFT, like this bull run here, you are one of the unique owners of this digital art piece that were handcrafted by Beeple. And because it's an NFT created by Beeple himself, when you own one, you can say, I own a Beeple artwork. And then because it's Beeple, and just like any artist, as his value as an artist goes up, so does his work. So if anyone copy paste this, let's just say I copy paste this JPEG, because essentially that's what it is on the internet, and I upload it, then I now have my own Beeple. But even if I take that JPEG and upload it as an NFT, people can see that this wasn't an NFT produced by Beeple's wallet. So they'll know this is not an original Beeple NFT. This guy just copy pasted it. So I'm gonna show you how this works, okay? Let's just go over here. So this is OpenSea. It's where you buy NFTs. It's where you make NFTs. It's just a platform. You don't have to use it. So this is the Bored Ape that I told you is worth 1.7 million right here, or 555 Ethereum. So what you can do is actually scroll down, and you can see the entire history of this NFT and who were the owners. So this is the owner addresses and who it was sent to. So if I go here, minted null address, let's just click it from a year ago. So this NFT was created a year ago. This is what the Ethereum blockchain explorer looks like. So when you're looking at the blockchain's transactions on the Ethereum network, this is what it looks like. This is the transaction hash, or the reference number, you can call it. You can see all the details. You can see who it was from, who it was sent to. So if I click on this, I can see the holder of the address of the person that owns this, or who bought it at the time. And you can see every other stuff transactions that they made. This is how transparent blockchain is. So you can also see that he has multiple Bored Apes, okay? And okay, what was I trying to? Okay, so here you can see the value that it was minted at, $2,400. Okay, and then you can see that it was transferred to this guy. So for whatever reason, when Bored Ape minted it, it got transferred to this guy over here. Oh, sorry about that. Well, you can see other NFTs he has, or she. But if you go to their address, again, you can see who they bought it from, who it was sent to, and the price that was paid. Okay, $300,000. That was the sale price. and now it's being listed for 1.7 million. So this person right here, he paid $300,000 for it, and now it's worth 1.7 million. Again, this is just to show you how it works in actuality. This is what the NFTs are providing. So this way you can trace back to whether it was created by the verified original artists or the developers of this community, which is here. So that's the purpose of NFTs. So in the case of, let's say, traditional art, then if somebody, like, let's say this museum, the owners of Mona Lisa, if they created an NFT of Mona Lisa, so their profile would look like something like this, except, you know, it'll be the Louvre Museum, and they'll have a bunch of digital representations of their artworks that they own. So they'll have maybe like the Mona Lisa here, and then the price will be like 100 million. And if somebody bought it, you can, like, let's say, okay, let's just go to another ape. So you can see it's owned by somebody else, but it's still by Bored Ape Yacht Club. So if somebody bought Mona Lisa, it'll be owned by, you know, whatever name, and then it'll have this tag that it came from the museum itself. So you know that this is the original Mona Lisa. It's, again, a smart contract that verifies the ownership. And in the past, or right now, you know how hard it is to verify these kind of things. So, but on the blockchain, you can do it with a few clicks of a few buttons, and a few minutes, you know whether it's the original piece or not. So this is the real utility that NFTs provide for you, okay? They help digitize ownership of unique items. So this is the promise of Web3 and what it allows you to do. So imagine a museum, a digital NFT museum, where you're going into this museum and there's all these digital art pieces that are being hosted on the museum, and you can take your phone and just maybe you can bid on the spot using your unique wallet address connected to the Ethereum blockchain, make bids, buy it, and then have proof of ownership right on your phone that you're the owner of this art piece that you just bought right off this museum. And maybe there'll even be a tag right there that you just owned it. So it's a different type of environment that gives us real promise and real benefit in terms of trying to verify unique and rare items and the ownership of these things, whether it's real estate or art or plenty of other things, okay? So here's the biggest problem that NFTs solve. So, and this is how it's going to relate to architecture. So as everything becomes more digital, there's a need to replicate the properties of physical items like scarcity, uniqueness, and proof of ownership. Not to mention that digital items often only work in the context of their product. So for example, you have an iTunes store and you buy a song from your favorite artist. You purchase this MP3 file. However, you can't resell that MP3 file on iTunes, and you can't exchange it, one company's loyal points for another platform's credit, even if there's a market for it. So you buy an iTunes MP3 file, and maybe now you don't want it anymore, and you want to or exchange it for a Spotify song that you want. Let's say there's a market for that. You can't even do that. You buy it, it's stuck on iTunes, even though you're now the new owner of that music track that you just purchased. You kind of don't own it because it's still, you can't take it out of iTunes and you can't sell it anywhere else. So as things get more and more digital, as we enter the fourth industrial revolution and creating this concept of the smart grid, where you have smart homes and factories and energy power plants all connected one another through the Internet of Things, we're going to need more Web3 technology, right? Because now we're digitizing everything. So if you see in this diagram here, the Web 2.0, which is what we have now, is this system where there's a middleman in between and there's like a cross between one another. Whereas with Web 3.0, it's this prosumer economy where everyone is involved in upholding of the network and contributing and getting direct exchange from the network itself. So to expand things a little bit here, hold up, let me just get rid of my face so you can see better. So now you have all these three conglomerates that are growing really big, tech giants, right? You have Google that have moved far from just a search engine, and you have Google Maps and GPS, and soon enough it'll probably be some type of surveillance, where you got Mark Zuckerberg and his new company Meta trying to build a metaverse built in the VR environment. Okay, Facebook, TV on your screen, on your face. I think that's pretty funny. And you also have Bill Gates, who is now, if I'm not mistaken, one of the biggest private owners of farmland in the US. So he's not just a operating software company anymore. He now owns plots of land, and we're seeing how useful that is right now with all that's going on in the world. So got nothing bad to say about these companies. I mean, I'm using Google right now to speak to you. I use Facebook for our business. They're great services. But when things become too monopolized, that's when things get a little concerning. And as humans, we know how risky it is to give too much power and influence to a very few selective people. So with the digitization of our world getting stronger and bigger and faster, we're going to need more access and control over the services that we use. So for example, Google is free. It's so free that we are so reliant on it. But at the same time, what's the hidden cost is our data. They sell the way we search for things and search terms and how we click on websites and interact with the web, and they sell it to advertisers to know how to, sell to us better. And it's free, right? But at the same time, you're not getting incentivized for giving your data, right? Facebook does not pay you any profit from the profit they make from the data that you use for using their services for free. So hopefully what we're trying to achieve, and some of the experiments I've been playing around with Web3, is that some of these companies will pay you a small fee to allow yourself to be advertised to. So I use this browser called Brave, and Brave will ask me, do you want to be advertised to? If I click yes, for every time that I get an ad, whether I click it, whether I close it, they'll pay me a small token of their currency, which it's not like a huge amount. But like I said, if I'm making $20 a year from my browser for being advertised to, and Facebook is paying me $0, that makes me ask why. If these companies can do that, why are they not doing that, right? So if Web3 can offer that, and we have the technology that can do that, and these companies are way bigger than Brave, the question is why? Why can't we have that, right? It's just a simple question. And if we're gonna head to this smart grid utopia over here, I think it would be very useful if we can be involved and make incentives out of what we're going to be upholding, because basically the smart grid doesn't exist without us. So the objective here is to ensure that the digitization of the built environment remains autonomous and open source, right? You want to have full autonomy, and you want it to be open source where nobody gets left behind. If you're going to be accessing the world through your smartphone, okay, through all these utilities, through automated transport, logistics, drones delivering your things, automated temperature control in your smart house, you want to have full control over that data, and you want it to be secure. And you don't want one company to be able to cut you off for mistakes they make, or maybe they might not agree with something you're doing and decide that you're no longer allowed to operate in their services. And that would be okay. But if it's a utility business, if at this point Facebook is now a utility business, should be considered as a utility business. Okay, you can't just say, oh, you don't like our services, go use another provider. At this point, these companies are in a way utility services because billions of people are using them. So there needs to be a different approach. They're not like private companies anymore. So if the world is going to be interconnected like this, that at least what we would like to see is full autonomous and open source system where everyone can be part, just like how Ethereum is open source, okay? And again, we have the technology for this. So the question is, why shouldn't we adopt it? So just to elaborate more on what else smart contracts can do, they can help in record storing, trading activities, supply chains, mortgages, healthcare services, real estate market, voting. Imagine eliminating voting fraud because everything is done through the blockchain and you can see exactly who voted for who. And the major thing is the Internet of Things, right? So with the Internet of Things, you're gonna want smart contracts. You're gonna want automated open source systems, because without it, then like it's that silo effect where, like, if you're, for example, I was trying to get a grab card the other day, and there's no taxis on the street. I can't go on the street and look for a taxi. It was very early in the morning. I couldn't find a grab car, and I noticed, wow, okay, I have a meeting. I can't get there. There's no grabs. I can't order a car. Now, there's other apps, but this is just a situation I faced. And I had to go and luckily I managed to, take a train or whatever, but it made me quickly realize that Grab and, e-hauling got rid of taxis on the street. But when those services aren't available, it's like I have no transport and I'm fully reliant on e-hailing services. So that's just an example of why we need this type of technology. So another comparison is traditional contracts versus smart contracts. They're faster. They take minutes instead of days. Automatic. Escrow may not be necessary. They're a fraction of the cost. Right now, like, there's a lot of cost involved with smart contracts. Ethereum is pretty expensive for what it's trying to be used for. But then if you compare it to traditional contracts, the costs are either the same or less at the moment. And that's getting better as Ethereum develops. And a virtual signature versus a physical one. So just to give you more context, this idea of NFTs and utility and access through tokens is it's not new. I'm going to tell you a little story about American Airlines, which made a $76 million mistake. Now, and I saw the comparison of this with NFTs, thanks to another YouTuber, Iman Gadzi, so credits to him. What happened in this story is that I think in the 1980s, around there, American Airlines decided that they wanted to build up revenue, and they had this idea to create an Air Pass, the AA Air Pass, which provides you a lifetime access to first-class flying services. And they wanted to sell this pass for $250,000. Okay, at the time, I think that's worth $500,000 now, and they didn't realize that they had priced themselves way too low. So I think about 40 people bought this Air Pass for $250,000. And within a few years, American Airlines started noticing that each customer was costing them millions of dollars per year for flight expenses. So this guy, Stephen A. Rothstein, right here, he bought an Air Pass for $250,000, and he did over 10,000 flights. And he costed him alone, costed them $21 million worth of flight expenses. And it came to a point where American Airlines was trying to rebuy these passes that they issued, and people didn't want to sell it back. So think about that. Let's say you have an NFT. You buy it for $250,000, like a Bored Ape, for example. And that Bored Ape or that NFT is so valuable, just like this American Airlines pass, that even when the airlines, I think they tried to buy it back for $1 million. So this guy could have made a 400% return on his investment. He paid $250,000. American Airlines offering him $1 million to buy it back. He could have, tripled his money, but he refused because it was so valuable to him, the flying first class indefinitely, that he did not want to sell it back. He didn't care. So it's the same analogy with the NFTs. Imagine you have an NFT that gives you such access, okay, that you don't even want to sell it because it's just so valuable that way. That's real utility, and that's real access. And the difference between NFTs and this airline pass is that now it's verifiable ownership. And because it's smart contracts protected by law of code, no one can cheat the triggers and the system involved, because the triggers need to be met for the execution to happen. So if, let's say, this airline pass says you only have 5,000 flights available, and it's a smart contract, then there would be no way you'd get through the barriers to get into the airplane, because every time you maybe scan your NFT, the triggers aren't met because it says, hey, you've already flown 5,000. It's nullified. Whereas with this guy, he wasn't necessarily doing anything illegal. he was just he's just using the rights that the airline pass gave him, and he shared that ticket with a lot of people. It's just American Airlines did not specify the terms and the conditions, and they realized it was a huge mistake, and they underpriced themselves. So this is just to give you context and some of the types of NFTs that exist right now. You got value, okay? Just somebody's valuable art, and that's entirely subjective to the people, just like an expensive timepiece, right? It's the company that made it, the craftsmanship involved. All this is subjective. Maybe he's your favorite artist and he splattered some paint, and we start assuming, well, this is worth hundreds of thousands. Who's to say what's valuable? Value is very subjective. So some NFTs are purely just artwork, and the value is just because of the person producing it. Other NFTs provide utility, which is, for example, what I explained earlier about smart contracts. And some of them also provide you access. So some of the access is like Bored Ape Yacht Club, and how it lets you get into certain events that only ape holders are eligible to enter, right? So you can also have an NFT that has all three of these things. The point is, it's programmable art. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be art. It can just be an icon, a representation of, like, let's say Latitude did an NFT and it just had a logo on it. And it's just like a wristband, okay? A wristband for going to a concert or a stadium. It's the same thing. It doesn't even have to be artwork. It's just a visual representation of what that smart contract provides utility or access to. So where is the role of the architect in this environment? So architects, as you know, are responsible for creating safe and secure buildings so that the roof doesn't fall on your head, right? They go through rigorous training to make buildings safe to live in. So where would their role be in this environment? If we're heading towards a smart grid and the digitization of our physical environment, the architect needs to facilitate the transition to the metaverse or digital twin as securely and safely as possible. We're gonna have to be responsible for the segue that's happening, and making sure that the systems we build into the fabric of our buildings protect human beings first, right? So let me give you some imagination here. Some of you have seen Iron Man, and you've seen his holographic lab that he has. And you know, it's really cool how you can take 3D shapes and see them in real time instead of just looking at flat paper or on a computer screen. Or this movie with Tom Cruise in it, Minority Report, where he's shifting through files and this nice, you know, hyper screen. And you know, they look like really awesome technologies that make it more productive and more innovative to do work. And you think we're very far away from those technologies, and we probably are. However, and this is big, we might not even need this. Right now we're in that primitive stage, but with AR lens over here, wait, let me move my camera a bit. With the AR lens here, you can have this type of environment in the lens, right? So it looks like you're in your own workspace, and you got all this visual real estate or hologram, which is in the lens. So you don't even need hologram technology. You just need a AR lens. Or in this VR workspace here, where he's got this massive workspace that's just like 360 with a view. And you know, maybe you're thinking, why would I need this much real estate? That's really up to you. But the point is that it exists and you can. And let's say for architects work with models a lot. So when you are able to represent information in 3D form, it helps you think about things and see things that you can't normally see. So with, again, our built environments being digitized, and with climate change agenda, because right now buildings are the third biggest contributors to climate change. So they're going to be one of the biggest areas that will be impacted by the Internet of Things and automation, is because these things will help collect data about how we use buildings, and what data lets us do is optimize, right? The reason companies collect data, the reason we have analytics, just like that app that lets you calculate how many calories you're burning or how many steps you're taking, is it lets you generate conclusions from collecting data. And then from that data, you can improve and optimize. So in the sense of our smart grid and the built environment, is going to be collecting data so that we can optimize and automate for energy efficiency to bring our carbon footprint down. So when we enter the sharing economy, what you're going to have is people contributing to buildings and the built environment and climate change through the way they use buildings, just like the way you're contributing to Google and Facebook by how you use Google and how you interact with content on Facebook and how long you watch a video. And then they take that data and about the consumer psychology, and they sell it to advertisers or for targeting for them to make business. So, but you're not getting paid for that. So imagine in this sharing economy where you have your entire house being tracked through thermal tracking, movement, energy consumption, solar, wind, everything. And it's being collected by the grid in order to create heat maps, okay? Like this is a heat map of energy and movement and everything like that. And what we want is to take these analytics and create visual representations of this data to help us understand what we can do better in order to improve and automate the efficiency and optimize it to bring our carbon footprint down. But the key component is you, because you're the one who's using these applications and living in these environments. So if everything about you is going to be tracked, like this is happening, right? This is the only way we're gonna get better at improving technology without destroying the planet. Because right now, information itself is gonna reach to a point where information exchange is gonna be producing so much energy that at some point, data and energy will be exchangeable. And the way you're gonna have power, like literal power, as in electricity, is by producing data. So you want to be able to have full autonomous access to these services. And you also want to be compensated for being a prosumer, which is someone who consumes and produces at the same time. So this is where the role of the architect comes in, and just more examples of what these digital twins or metaverses will look like in this sense. Now, I'm not talking metaverse like video games. I'm talking about how these NFTs and Web 3.0 metaverses will help us, because now you can create, this is considered a digital twin, okay? Which is showing you things you can't see in real life. In real life, you won't see all these graphs and these highlights and heat maps. But when you create a digital twin of the whole world, you'll get all this data. So imagine living in a metaverse, or working in a metaverse, I should say, that lets you improve your life, right? Because technically, we already are in a metaverse. All of us work online. All of us are connected when we're doing our jobs. So the only difference is that you're looking at a screen and it's not in your face. You're not immersed. That's the only difference between the promised metaverse and what we're doing right now. So if we're going to connect that to our buildings, and if everything about us is going to be digitized, we might as well make sure that it's done in a open source way. So right now, let's just let me refresh your memory of the misconceptions we talked about earlier. I think we've tackled all of them. I've explained to you whether NFTs are a blockchain or a currency. I've made you realize that it's not complicated at all. They're just smart contracts. And then this whole utility or useless, I just explained how they're not. And get cash grab, get rich quick, just like any other business. And whether they're a scam, again, people scamming their customers right now or their communities, it's all on the blockchain. Everyone knows it's there forever. So they're tainting themselves forever. So like any business, like again, nothing new to the Web 3.0. And now we're gonna hit the last one, which is this a bubble? And will it pop soon? And is it just hype of new technology? So the real question is it too late? So OpenSea, as I've showed you the platform earlier, is like the eBay for NFTs. And they've surpassed over $4 billion in sales in 2021. But as of 2022, there's only 600,000 users. So let that sink in for a second. This is their user growth, okay? And the sales volume growth. And there's 4 billion in sales, but only 500,000 users. So that's how new, look, there's billions of people in the world, okay? Marriage contracts are going to be NFTs at some point. So you got to look at the macro. Right now in the micro, it could be a bubble, it could pop. But again, the technology is the same. And if you're building something, it doesn't matter if it's hype or a bubble, because the innovation and the ideas that I just explained to you are timeless. And because the smart grid is going to happen, because our establishments and our governments are consistently talking about it, they want to produce it, they think it's the only way moving forward. And yeah, you can just position yourself for the macro instead of looking for small wins. So it's definitely not too late, okay? It's very, very early, rather, I should say. And look, I'm no economist, but I've learned about this adoption curve here. And you can see that it's the early innovators and the early adopters that get on board first before the early majority. So when everyone's grandma has an NFT and everyone knows that NFTs are safe and are like, there's no way, it's like, for example, mobile apps. In the past, like, oh, anyone who made an app first became ultra rich, and people were still skeptical about applications and application businesses. People were skeptical about internet businesses or starting an e-commerce store or putting their credit card information into the internet, into their computer. People thought the internet was a bubble and hype. But look at it now, just 20 years later. So it's the early adopters that make the most out of volatility. You know it's too late when everyone knows that it's safe to create an internet business, right? Making an internet business is like the norm now. Creating a mobile application is the norm now. Like, you know that that's a way to succeed. And once everyone knows that's a way to succeed, that's when it's too late. Or rather, I should say, the volatility and the exponential growth, and for you to make the most massive gains, that's when it's already too late, because now you're just competing with everyone else. So the best way is to get in before everyone's grandma has an NFT. And again, this is if you're just trying to be part of the innovators. If you're not, then just sit back and watch what happens and enjoy the ride. So right now, the current NFT metaverse space, just to, again, solving the question is it too late? This is where we're at. It looks nice, but you know, it's nothing like what it could be. If you just look at the most AAA video games right now, they look 10 times better than this. So we do have technology to do better metaverse worlds and enable NFTs into that, make them more awesome, more realistic. But this is where we're at. We're still very early, and the people that can get the right funding and build the best projects and take their time, those are the ones that are going to win. Because right now we're still here, okay? So we're very, very new. So I want you to imagine the possibilities of where this could go in the next 10 years. Imagine the type of worlds that you can build using these open source systems and the kind of environments you can live in. Maybe you can't afford to live in a palace, but then perhaps you can put on a VR headset and enjoy the type of environment. It's not the real thing, but you know, it's not that bad either, right? If it's gonna look this great, which it can, imagine the kind of way we're gonna interact with the web and with everybody else. Now, I'm not someone who encourages living in a virtual reality, okay? I think life is beautiful as it is. But as I mentioned earlier, we already work online a lot. And if we can find a balance between interacting with the internet, just like real life right now, and the real world, then why not, right? Why not be able to hop into a ultra looking futuristic world like this and have fun with some friends, or instead of just a normal Zoom call, right? So, and also imagine the limitless possibilities it lets you do with creativity. I think that's the biggest thing. And this is what architects can get involved in. This is what the kind of worlds that architects will need to develop, because if you're going to build worlds, you need people who understand what facilitates for a world, whether virtual or not. And the more you can make the virtual look like real life, that's when you'll get that sense of presence. So this is just more examples of actually creating digital twins of our environments, okay? And just some of the possibilities that could happen. So the vision for Web3 is huge. Will we make it? Only time will tell. I hope that this video has given you the required knowledge and eliminated a lot of the confusion and misconception that is going around. And the next time someone tells you an NFT is a scam, well, now you know better, because you can see the full macro spectrum of what's going on. Now we will be releasing an NFT project soon. Haven't figured out the details yet, but once I do, I'll let you know. So stay tuned. Click subscribe if you want more videos like this. Hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what you think, and